All right, let's dive right into this explainer and look at the absolute emperor of all bombs. We're talking about the most powerful human-made explosion in history, a blast so immensely terrifying it permanently altered the trajectory of the global nuclear arms race. We're looking at the Soviet Union's RDS-220, better known as the Tsar Bomba, or as they called it internally, Big Ivan. But what's truly fascinating here isn't just the sheer size of the weapon. It's how its detonation forced a massive strategic shift across the entire globe. So let's break down exactly why Tsar Bomba actually changed history.
To really grasp the scale we're dealing with, we've got to put it into perspective. Imagine a single detonation roughly 3,800 times more powerful than Little Boy, the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It is honestly almost impossible for the human brain to even comprehend that level of destruction.
And the physics of this explosion? Staggering. When it detonates, this weapon creates a blast that superheats the surrounding air to a terrifying 100 million degrees Celsius. To put that in context, that is literally 4 to 5 times hotter than the center of the sun itself. Just think about that for a second. It creates this high-pressure, blindingly bright orange fireball expanding at millions of kilometers per hour until it hits nearly 5 kilometers wide.
But it doesn't stop there. The cataclysm unleashed by Big Ivan creates a shockwave so incredibly violent that it didn't just lap around the Earth once. No, it traveled around the entire globe 3 separate times. The atmospheric disturbance was so intense, it was physically felt all the way in New Zealand.
But as always, context is everything. So let's step back for a second to the late 1950s. The US and the Soviets had actually agreed to a voluntary test ban moratorium. People were finally hopeful for some peace. But then, in May of 1960, an American U-2 spy plane gets shot down deep inside Soviet territory. The US lied, said it was a weather plane, which completely blew up in their faces when the pilot confessed to the CIA connection. It was a massive PR disaster that totally tanked a highly anticipated Paris disarmament summit, sending tensions straight to a boiling point.
Enter Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev. He's feeling impulsive, aggressive, and he really wants a massive propaganda victory to assert dominance over a newly inaugurated US President John F. Kennedy, who he kind of viewed as weak. Khrushchev's star physicist, Andrei Sakharov, basically begged him not to resume testing because of the lethal global fallout it would cause. But Khrushchev flat out refused. He essentially declared he'd be a spineless jellyfish if he listened to scientists over political strategy.
So the escalation that follows is just absolute insanity. Consider all the explosive power expended in all of World War II combined, including both atomic bombs. That was roughly 3 megatons. The previous largest test, the American Castle Bravo, sat at 15 megatons. The Tsar Bomba? A staggering 50 megatons. In a single split second, it completely eclipsed human history's darkest moment.
What makes this even wilder is the timeline. Because Khrushchev was in such a rush for his big propaganda win, Soviet scientists had exactly 16 weeks to design, build, and detonate an entirely untested weapon in a yield range they had never even explored. I mean, no pressure, right? What they ended up with was a 25-ton behemoth, roughly the size of a school bus.
So how did they pull this off under such insane pressure? Well, while the exact details are still a Russian state secret, we know they used a highly unique 3-stage hydrogen bomb mechanism. The real innovation here was the use of 2 near-simultaneous primary triggers. Nailing that perfect timing is unbelievably difficult, but Sakharov's team actually pulled it off, which allowed them to ignite the 3rd stage symmetrically and absolutely maximize the explosive power.
But here's where human conscience actually steps in. See, the original design called for a 100 megaton yield using uranium-238, but Sakharov crunched the numbers and realized a blast that size would cause over 660,000 premature deaths globally over time just from radioactive fallout. So in a drastic last-minute pivot, he successfully lobbied to swap out the uranium for a heavy, non-fissionable material like lead. This one move effectively halved the bomb's theoretical yield from 100 down to 50 megatons. Yet, even heavily modified, the danger to the immediate crew was immense. The bomb was so incredibly bulky, it required a specially modified bomber just to carry it. And to give the crew even a fighting chance to escape the blast radius, they attached a massive parachute to slow its descent from 10 kilometers up. Even with all these precautions, the engineers calculated the crew only had a 50% chance of surviving the drop. They essentially flipped a coin on their own pilots' lives.
The drop finally happened on October 30th, 1961, over the remote Arctic island of Novaya Zemlya. Now, upon detonation,
The very first fraction of a millisecond was completely silent. Remember, light has no sound. But that luminous flash was so intensely bright, it could actually be seen from an astonishing 1,000 kilometers away, and it lasted for over a minute.
The sheer vertical scale of the destruction here is genuinely hard to fathom. About 35 seconds after that flash, the iconic mushroom cloud emerged. But it didn't just rise, it towered 64 kilometers into the sky. That is 7 times higher than Mount Everest. It completely pierced the stratosphere and reached all the way up into the mesosphere. Down below, ground zero was leveled so thoroughly that the rocks themselves were just totally vaporized. But going beyond all that raw, awe-inspiring destruction, the Tsar Bomba changed history by doing something entirely unexpected. It actually proved to militaries worldwide that infinitely scaling up bomb size was a huge strategic mistake. Think about it. It was a lumbering 25-ton city destroyer. In actual combat, it would be spotted and shot down almost immediately. The physics simply did not support the strategy. This is because explosions scale on a cubic root, meaning a bigger blast doesn't equal a proportionally wider circle of destruction. A 100 megaton bomb releases 10 times the energy of a 10 megaton bomb, sure, but it only damages about twice the area. So militarily speaking, you get vastly more widespread damage dropping 5 smaller weapons than you do dropping 1 massive superbomb. This specific mathematical reality caused global nuclear strategies to permanently pivot. The era of the colossal gravity bomb was effectively over. Instead, the focus quickly shifted toward developing smaller, highly precise warheads that were way easier to deploy via long-range missiles. To put that in perspective, today, the largest nuclear weapon in the US arsenal is about 40 times less powerful than the Tsar Bomba. Now, despite Sakharov's efforts making this one of the cleanest nukes ever dropped relative to its yield, the environmental and human cost was, and still is, devastating. Radioactivity encircled the globe for years. Today, we're seeing stratospheric radiation that was trapped in nearby Arctic glaciers, melting at record speeds into the Barents Sea, creating this secondary source of fallout. Plus, indigenous populations near the test site suffer from significantly elevated chromosomal diseases and birth defects. Tragedies the Soviet Union actively covered up, earning the area the grim nickname, the Archipelago of Death. That horrific human toll weighed incredibly heavily on the weapon's primary architect. Horrified by his own creation, Andrei Sakharov fundamentally shifted the global scientific conscience. He spent the rest of his life vigorously campaigning against atmospheric testing and the arms race, openly criticizing Soviet leadership. His relentless activism was so impactful it eventually earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 1975. And this is exactly why the Tsar Bomba changed history. Sakharov's warnings, combined with the sheer undeniable terror of Big Ivan, actually had a tangible political impact. Many historians argue the Tsar Bomba was the main catalyst for the 1963 partial nuclear test ban treaty signed between the US and the Soviets. The test just made it undeniably clear how dangerous these weapons were, finally prohibiting atmospheric, space, and underwater nuclear testing. Furthermore, witnessing this absolute upper limit of destruction caused the US to quietly abandon its own terrifying plans. Edward Teller, the father of the US hydrogen bomb, had been pushing hard for Project Sundial. This was a catastrophic plan to build a 10,000 megaton bomb. That's right, 670,000 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. An explosion of that magnitude could have quite literally poisoned the entire planet. But seeing the realities of the Tsar Bomba helped ensure that Sundial never saw the light of day. Which leaves us with this haunting question to consider as we wrap up this explainer. The Tsar Bomba was a weapon built for glory and intimidation, quite literally a doomsday device brought to life. But by proving that infinitely larger bombs were strategically useless, and by forcing the world's superpowers to look directly into the abyss of their own capabilities, did this weapon of ultimate terror actually prevent our total annihilation? It's a massive, unsettling thought to walk away with.